Good morning. Got my muffin and coffee. Yesterday I took a little bit of a break and went fishing. I needed that time away, man. The roads here are nuts. City life is nuts. When you get out in the country though, and you enjoy a little bit of time, peace and quiet, it's perfect. But it's funny, I got there, and this lake that I go to, you know, I'm talking overpopulation. It doesn't matter where you go. You go to the deepest woods or to the wherever. It doesn't matter where you go on this earth. You're going to run into people. Not saying I don't love people, absolutely speaking, from God's perspective. I'm just saying overcrowding is just ridiculous in this world. But this is a fishing lake. And they got boats out there. They're fishing, right? Which is fine. Beautiful. And it's a beautiful lake. I went there last year. Took a few pictures, but this guy was doing scuba diving lessons right there where I was fishing. I'm thinking, man, can't you just go over there a little further? There's plenty of lake. But instead, he's there doing scuba diving lessons right beside where I'm fishing and casting. It was just like, okay, well, I can't stay here. And then the heat, 30 degrees yesterday. Celsius, so I just got out of there, but it was just nice to go for a little drive. And you know, there's always frustrations in this life, no matter what you try to do, and there's always people. It's interesting because you want to kind of get away and be alone and in a quiet place, but then that happens. But it's interesting, that's all. Just gotta adapt. That's what you do. You adapt in this crazy world. So yeah, having that little break was good. But I'm back at it today. I gotta work, I gotta make money. And every day, because otherwise, you know, I'm not getting ahead at all. And I need to get ahead to get on the road with my son. He works at an RV place now, so I already told you guys that. But he said, Dad, let's rent an RV and go to Nebraska. I said, yeah, okay. That'll cost a fortune. The rental and gas, holy jumping. That'd be just way too much. I think I'll take this little car, you know, get it roadworthy, and should be fine. 20 hours, I figure. A couple of days. Stay in a motel. Halfway there. Something like that. We mapped it out together. Me and Jay got 20 hours, 20 or 21 hours for the drive. But yeah, should be good. Alrighty. Sorry. Had to have my muffin. Okay, I want to continue this article because it's very important to understand. God created both good and evil in one tree, and he planted it in the midst of the garden. You couldn't miss it. Adam and Eve, they couldn't miss that tree. It was right there, right in front of them. And God planted it on purpose, right in the midst of the garden. Both good and evil for the contrast. See, God's contrast of work. Appreciation of good, because if you get an experience of evil and good comes, wow, that's awesome. Good just happened out of all that evil. Isn't that nice? Okay, a surprising act of God. God's ability and determination to carry out his purpose in full accord with his declarations are put to the test immediately, as soon as the account of creation is completed. In the day that Yahweh Elohim made earth and heavens, there was not yet any shrub of the field on earth, nor yet any herbage of the field yet been sprouting. For Yahweh Elohim had not made it rain on the earth. And there was no human to serve the ground. Genesis 2, 4, and 5. In this review of the divine activity of creating, two forms of life are singled out for attention: plants and humanity. We thus become aware that there is to be some special connection in God's operations between the two created groups. After speaking of God's provision of irrigation in Genesis 2:6, the record proceeds with the formation of these two creations. Then Yahweh Elohim formed the human out of the soil, from the ground, and blew into his nostrils the breath of life. And the human became a living soul. Furthermore, Yahweh Elohim planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the human, whom he had formed. Furthermore, Yahweh Elohim made sprout from the ground every tree desirable to the sight and good for food, with the tree of life in the middle of the garden, and also the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Genesis 2:8-9. Here special mention is made of God's creation of a human being who is soulish, desiring and needing food. And then of God placing the human in a garden, in which God also places this and sprouts plants that appeal to the human and are good for his sustenance. In addition, there is an extra and greater provision in the placing and sprouting of a tree in the midst of the garden, which is identified as the tree of life. All of this is perfectly understandable and gloriously appropriate, a wise and beneficial arranging of things. But there is one more creation and arrangement that causes great wonder. Along with the tree of life, God planted and sprouted the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In completing the work of the 6 days of creation, God saw that what he had made was good. But now we learn that one particular creation contains within itself something that introduces humanity to both good and evil. Knowledge of good and evil. This is the first reference to evil in the scriptures, and it is clearly associated with the activities of God and paired with good. God plants the tree that contains that which introduces us to evil. He makes it sprout. It is part of his creation, and he places it in the same location where he places the human. Wow. It must be obvious that the knowledge of evil is necessary to the appreciation of good. This indeed is a critical subject for our consideration and learning, and we have given much attention to it in the pages of this magazine, which is the Unsearchable Riches. Yet at present, we are specifically concerned with the pattern of God's operations and the way in which this makes him known, and not so much with the theme of the purpose of evil. The question put forward here is, does the introduction of evil into our world mean that God will not be able to bring his creation to the very good finish that is spoken of in Genesis 1:31 and Genesis 2:3? Okay, so we'll continue on tomorrow with the divine goal. Grace and peace. Have a beautiful Wednesday.